Welcome to Evolution on the Mic. I am your host, Ariana de la Cruz.
And I'm your co-host, Antoine Dove.
And we are back, season 4, The Power of Positive Thinking, episode 4, How to Achieve Goals with Positive Thinking. In our last episode, y'all, we discussed the effects that negative thoughts has on our overall mental health. In today's episode, we will be discussing how positive thoughts helps us to achieve our goals. But before we get into all that, Antoine, how you doing? How you've been? How's your week?
Oh, yeah, this week has been one for the books. Like I was talking last time we met, I'm in the process of moving, and anyone that's been through a move, it's never as short as you hoped. It seems to be one of those things sometimes that lingers on, and that's how this one feels. Is I
Mm,
just feel like it's been lingering for a bit, but I'm about 75% of the way there. I'm grateful for God's wisdom because as I was deciding on my dates to move, one of the things I had the choice of doing was to push my date to the end of the month, like so move out on September 30th, or I had the option where I could move in a week early. And I just prayed and asked God to make the way for me to be able to move in early, and He did. And I'm so grateful that He did because it's allowed me the time to move, but not have all of the stress that comes with the move. Like it's still there. I know there's things that needs to be done, but I can chunk it out into days since I'm still working, as
yeah.
opposed to feeling like I have to do it all in one big felt swoop. So I got most of it done on Sunday. And now each day I have my list of things that I need to get done each day to ensure that I'm good to go. But yeah, I'm excited in my new place. I got to figure out this whole background situation so I can, get my game up again because I'm a little lost. There's boxes back here that you guys can't see. But other than that, yeah, it's been a great week. Just a blessing and just grateful for God allowing this next door and chapter for me to be open. But what about you, Ari? Like, how's things going? Last time we talked, you were getting people $75,000 with Chase, like in
Yeah,
the
it ended up being
podcast.
75. So I know like in the last episode at the end, I know I got overly emotional. Apologies about that. And I mentioned that my client had told me that it was 55,000 that he got with Chase through my relationship manager. But when I actually got off the show, I found out that it was actually 75. My client just couldn't really hear because he was at work. So he couldn't really hear the number, but it was confirmed that it was 75. So he was definitely even more excited. And I was in awe, just giving God so much glory for, who he is and how he's been just always, just over delivering. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like his promises are true and it just tends to be more than what I thought they would be. So yeah, I mean the journey still continues. I have a couple clients that is going through the funding process right now. As you know, I've removed hard inquiries. So some of them are just in that process where we got to remove their inquiries or they have to, do some things. And then, in a couple weeks, they'll be ready. So
Love
yeah,
it.
excited about that,
I love it.
there's just a flow and just, yeah, things have been going good. I can't complain.
I love it. No,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I mean, that whole idea, because last time we were talking about in our episode, you were talking about like your goals in terms of what your goals are for your clients. And that really resonated with me. Like you were saying how you want to always provide the best service to your clients. Like that's one of your goals. You don't want to be subpar. You don't want the bad reviews. You want your client, whatever they're expecting that you've discussed with them, you want to deliver on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that concept of our goals really flows nicely into the positive thinking conversations we've been having. And so we've talked a lot this season about positive thinking and where it showed up in relationships, where's it showing up in terms of our mental health, even like what is positive thinking. We've started in that space. But I think one of the things that is probably the most impactful when it comes to positive thinking is achieving goals. We all have goals that we set out to be, and those goals are all different. It's different for each of us. Some of us, we have these very huge goals that we
Yep.
just sometimes feel as though like we've made them so big that we can't even scale them or climb them. Some of them we have small goals. Like it could just be like, today I'm going to get up and I'm going to actually start walking. I know I need to go back to the gym, but I'm not ready for the gym. I'm just gonna get up every day and walk for 5 to 10 minutes. And each of those goals are being put in place because we have something that we want to achieve. And when you think about achieving, there's a certain mindset that comes with achieving. And Ariana kind of already touched on this in our last episode about mental health and the mental health that comes with positive thinking and what comes from negative thinking and how negative thinking impacts our mental health. And then she even shared some tips about how we can take those negative thinking aspects of things we go through and flip them into something positive so that we are lifted up, that we receive that growth for ourselves, that the things that we have been holding us back in our minds, we're able to relinquish those things and move forward with confidence and move forward with precision and move forward with grace and how we move forward, because we know that we are moving in a way that God has called us to move. We know that we have the skills and things we need to be able to move forward. And so I wanted to spend some time today really diving deep into this concept of goals and how
I
goals
love it.
impact us. So, Aria, before I jump in, you know, I think one of the things I wanted to share, and I think you can relate to this, and I'd love to hear kind of your feedback on this, is, you know, one of the big goals that I had whenever I met you. I mean, taking it back to about a year ago, one of the big goals I had when I met you was real estate investing. I mean, we met in a real estate investing group, right?
Yeah.
And my goal that I had wrote down, I found this paper the other day. This is a good thing about moving. You get to find stuff, right? That you
Oh,
need to
you
put to the side. So like I
did?
found my paper that was telling me about all my goals. And one of the goals that I had for myself was that I was going to have 2 to 3 properties by about this time this year, right?
Yeah.
And looking at me, right? I'm not in that position. I don't have 2 to 3 properties. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be honest. Like there was a moment where I was pretty sad. I felt like I had let myself down. I really did. It was like this moment where I was thinking, I was like, man, like you set out with this big goal, you did all the work that you needed to do in the
Yeah.
program, but like it just didn't happen for you. You just didn't, you didn't like, you didn't reach your goal. You didn't achieve what you set out to achieve. And I was a little bummed. Like I was really bummed by it. Not to the point that it ruined my day, but it's like one of those fleeting moments where you just kind of like, dang, like what happened? What happened? And it was in that moment that, as I was thinking about this episode and what we were going to talk about achieving goals, that I started to realize, wow, like this is a constant battle that we go through, like setting a goal and then either not achieving it or somewhat achieving it, not setting these certain expectations, not achieving those expectations. And then it kind of sending us on this little spiral, or as we said last time, this merry-go-round, this negative loop, start to take me on this negative loop. And then that negative loop, if I don't stop it, could then lead to other things, could lead to me, you know, starting to doubt myself in other areas, or start to lead to me no longer taking action. And so one of the things that for me was important about that was flipping it to a positive. I started thinking, okay, well, yeah, like I didn't achieve what I set out to achieve, but one of the things that has came from that experience in being in this real estate investing group is that I had a chance to meet Ariana. And in meeting
Hmm.
Ariana, it led to us creating this beautiful podcast in which we pour our hearts out every week to share with you guys where we're at in our lives, what things we're going through, and how our lives are constantly changing, to show you guys that all of our lives are constantly changing. There's nothing that's perfect out there. But also, what came from that was skills and knowledge and tools in real estate investing that I never had before. And as someone that has a real estate background, it helps me when I'm having conversations with people. It helps me when people are asking about investing properties, be able to share the knowledge that I've gained to support them, that ultimately allows me to be a resource, a positive resource for them. And so I was curious, you know, Ari, from your experience, have you thought about that at all? Like when we think about the goals we achieve, like have you thought about that at all since leaving the A&E program and when we were doing that real estate investing group?
Yeah, I mean, like going into that mentorship, right? Because that's what it was. It was a mentorship that was there to teach you how to buy real estate, you know, how to become like a developer, construction, things like that, right? How to get a tenant, do Section 8, rinse and repeat, right? So we was in there and I went in there wholeheartedly, like, you know, I'm gonna be the biggest, you know, residential and commercial real estate person. And, you know, we wrote those in the beginning he had us write like our commitment letter. So my commitment letter, like I wrote like why I was doing this, how many properties I was gonna have by the end of the year. And just like you, Antoine, that didn't happen for me. But so much more happened for me. right? So much more. Not only did it get me started with funding myself, it opened the door for me to learn funding from a coach, right? I was able to find my coach. I was able to, the first two clients that I had, one in my funding company, one in my inquiry removal company, was from the A&E.
Mm-hmm.
Maya was my first inquiry removal
That's
client.
right.
That's when things, went through the roof, because then she posted, "Oh, Ariana did this and this and this," and that just went haywire from that one client from the A&E. The first funding client that I had was Dr. Leslie, and after that, when she started posting, that's when everybody started coming to me. So much more has happened in my life. I would not be where I'm at. And also meeting you, Antoine, and having the book club that we had, with the book
Mm-hmm.
The Rich and Righteous, and having, people in that book club see me and you, how we interact and how we were discussing the book, and say, "Hey, you guys should have a podcast." And because of that, we said, "Yes, let's do a podcast." And here we are in this God-led, faith-led evolution on the Mic podcast, and we've evolved so much. Yes, we didn't hit our goal of having those properties, but like you are saying, we have that knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Anton and I were executor of the month in that group quite a lot, so we were doing our homework. We were doing, we had to do every day in that group, analyzing deals, getting all the softwares like PropStream and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
learning about them, and using the calculator of real estate. We did so much that knowledge, nobody can take it away from us.
Right.
No one can take it away from us. So, and I know that at some point that goal will realize into getting the properties, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and who knows, it might be even bigger than what we have if we would have started then and not have what we had now, because that's just how God works. So yeah, no, I totally think about it, and I'm just so grateful for the A&E. And I had a goal, but God had another idea for me.
That's it. That's it. And that last part that you just said is one of the most critical parts about this when we talk about achieving goals and positive thinking. We have our goals that we set out to do, but we also have to remember that sometimes those goals are not a right now goal. Sometimes God may say, "Yes, I know I had you going down that path, but really I had a different direction for you to go."
Yeah.
As much as I know Ariana, and I know, speaking for myself, would love to have cash flowing properties in this moment that's generating income for us, the work that God has us doing through this podcast, I know for me means even more than that. Because I know that as I'm sharing my journey with you guys and everyone that's listening, I know that there's one person out there. I know there's at least one person out there who I've said something and it made a shift in their life. And when you think about the little things that to you may seem just as simple as, you know what, I screwed up on that goal. I didn't actually get where I wanted to be, but God opened the doorway for me to do some other things to further his kingdom. And someone goes, "Wow, I never thought about that in my life." And they start to see things differently. It touches you. It touches you. It reminds you of why we go through what we go through, why we started this podcast. We didn't start this podcast because we thought that we knew everything that we needed to say to you guys and we're the experts. Heck no, we started this podcast because we were like, man, we're going through some interesting stuff in our lives. And I
Yeah.
bet there are people out there who are going through the same thing, who maybe doesn't have someone who they can talk to, who's positive, or who's uplifting them. Maybe they're in a place where someone's always tearing them down and telling them that what they're not going to be, who's spreading all of this negative energy to them and saying negative things to them that's bringing them down, and they don't know how to get out. We want to be that lifeline. We want to be that resource that they can come every week and listen to some people who are saying, "You know what? I freaking believe in you. You're awesome.
Yeah.
You've got what
Yeah.
it takes."
We were starting a lot of new things too when we were, getting ready to launch the podcast. So it was just a perfect time to showcase and document
Right.
our
Right.
journey, right? When we
True
started the
that.
podcast, yes, we were doing it for our avatar and our viewers, but it was mainly for us to document, because we knew that we were entering a whole new plane that God had put us on, a whole new path. And we
Right.
wanted to document that journey. And we knew that things were going to evolve. Like, look, I've moved, you moved, like my background has changed, like even the lighting and the setting of how I look has changed. And, we're just getting better in time, like fine wine. So, like, we wanted to document all that. So we can have something for other people to be like, if they can do it. We've seen where they were at week by week by week by week, and every week wasn't great, right? We have our slumps, right? We're not always meeting our goals, but we stay the course. And that's the
Mhm.
beautiful thing that we want to showcase in this podcast to everybody watching, that they can go back and see our growth, that they can go back and see everything that we've been able to do and accomplish, even though every accomplishment wasn't always when we wanted them,
Right. Yep.
you
And
know?
and and so on that same thought, let's talk some about accomplishments and let's talk some about goal setting. So as I had mentioned earlier at the beginning, what a goal is the objective of a goal
Mm-hmm.
is a person's ambition, right? What are your desired results? When you set a goal, you're saying, I have a desire of something I want to achieve. That's where it starts. And goals can be anything. It can be performance goals, it can be financial goals, relationship goals, spiritual goals, health goals. We all have a bunch of goals, but at the core of what a goal is, you have a desired result that you want to achieve and you want to find a way to get it. So, simply put, there's an area in your life in which you have a desired result or state that you haven't achieved yet. And that's the big piece. Like you've noticed something in your life, whatever that be, could be your health, could be your spirituality, could be just work, could be being a parent. And you said, you know what? I feel as though I have some more that I can give. I feel like I'm probably running at 90%, and there's another 10% that I can give to this aspect of my life. And I want to do that. And how I'm going to do that is by doing these things to help me achieve that. That in its simple state is what a goal. And so think about your life right now and where there's areas of your life where you are saying to yourself, in this moment, I want to be a little bit better in this area. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be like mountain or miles wide better. It can be something as simple as, you know what? Instead of taking the elevator, I'm going to take the stairs for my health goal. It can literally be that simple, but it's a commitment to yourself to do something that you know you want to be better at. You know, there's a part of your life that you want to achieve more. You know that you have something deep inside of you to get more and you want to achieve that. Now, think about that. There's a lot of beautiful, positive energy that's coming out of that when you're feeling that way, right? Now, what could potentially make that go wrong? Well, the first thing that
Negative
comes to my
thinking.
mind is negative thinking, right? That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And the negative thinking is really, it's really impacted by what I would call certain types of motivators. So even like our desired result, getting what we want, achieving what we want, really kind of breaks down into two types of what I would call motivators. There's internal motivators, and these are internal thoughts and belief systems that we have within ourselves that helps us to achieve. So in other words, if I've already identified a gap in my life and I'm like, I need to be better at this, then there's something inside of me that has identified that and said, I believe I'm better than where I am today. And all I need to do is do
Yep.
X, Y, and Z, and I will achieve it. That's our internal motivators. You are in complete control of your internal motivators. No one else can touch your internal motivators. Can they try to sway them? Yes, but that's not called an internal motivator. That's an external motivator. So anytime you have people, it could be friends, families, books, things that we watch and hear, those are your external motivators. So you have this competing, sometimes it's competing, sometimes it's aligned. In the best situation, I'd say you want these aligned. You want your internal and your external motivators to be aligned. That gives you that
Mm-hmm.
extra push. How I think about it is if you have forces, two forces, and both forces are going in the same direction, you're going at a much faster pace. Whereas if you have one force going in one direction and another force pushing against it, you're still moving forward, but not as much as you want to achieve. So that's what I'm saying. Like my internal force, if I'm really strong, I'm motivated. Yes, I'm ready to go get this done. But there's external factors. These could be ones I've created. These can be people I've brought into my life. These can be things that I'm feeding my mind. If my external factors are stronger than my internal factors, then guess what? I'm not going to be moving forward. If anything, I might even be moving backwards or standing still. And I think that is where we tend to get stuck and why positive thinking is so important. Because what do we know about positive thinking? Positive thinking is a positive external motivator. Positive thinking is going to help you propel forward. So whatever you have internally, how I look at it is
Mhm.
your internal motivators are being watered, are being fueled by positive thinking. Your internal motivators are continuing, like think about like the seeds. We know our favorite thing, our Chinese bamboo tree that Ariana and I have been talking about for episodes. But the for those who are just joining us, the Chinese bamboo tree starts out as this little itty bitty seed. It's so small, right? And when you plant the Chinese bamboo tree, it takes so long for this tree to actually even break ground and start to grow. But once
Mhm.
it breaks ground and starts to grow, it shoots up at lightning pace. That's the same concept of how I think about internal motivators and positive thinking. Your internal motivators is those small seeds. They're the things inside of you, deep inside your heart, deep inside your mind, what you feel, what you know is your calling, what you know is where you're supposed to be. We all have those thoughts. When you have that, you want positive thinking to water that seed. And that's how I see positive thinking is you're watering that seed. And it doesn't happen immediately when you start. If you someone who's spent a lot of time in your negative thinking and things like that, it doesn't happen immediately. You don't just automatically start seeing everything in a positive light. Negative thinking is still going to be there. It never goes away. It's always there. How I view it is negative thinking is it can be either silenced or it can be the volume can be turned up. So over time, what happens is you just silence it. It's like you're turning that volume down, but it never goes away. It's still there. But when you add those positive thinking into the internal motivators, you see this growth. And just like the Chinese bamboo tree, you start to accelerate at rapid speeds as you continue to devote to that. So that I just wanted to spend some time kind of at least taking some time for us to understand where what I feel and what I've seen and how it's applied to my life of how positive thinking has impacted me. And even for others that I've talked to, what I've seen is this constant battle between internal and external motivators and how they show up in your life. Does that resonate at all with you, Ari? Or have you seen that even in your own life and with people you've either worked with, or maybe
Yeah.
some of your clients, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, like what hit me was when I first was on my weight loss journey, like many years ago when I was still living in my mom's house, it was hard for me at first to get to losing weight. So I would always like, start and stop because, my mom would cook amazing food. And so those were external motivators that were just going against my internal desires to get it together. Right. But when I started my journey, like it did start with like this deep desire to have longevity of life. I want to do mentor's way. Like I was seeking God and I put him in the forefront of it. And I started my journey, but I closed off from everybody around me. Like I no longer was relying on my mom's food. I was cooking my own food. I was doing my own food shopping. I had like my own little things on the side. And I noticed that just at first, just having that internal motivator, so that big passion and desire to just, lose the weight wasn't enough. I needed the external to also be helpful in helping me reach my goals. So once my family started seeing the benefits of how the weight loss was affecting me positively, you know what I mean? Like I stopped drinking, I looked better, my skin was clearing, like I was losing weight pretty rapidly. I was working out, I got me like equipment in my house to like work out in. Like I had an elliptical in my house. I had the ab coaster back in the day, the ab coaster.
I remember those.
I got me the Montel Williams blender. Like I just was putting things in my environment that were not only, like that my family was able to see exactly like what am I doing. It started impacting them. Right. My mother switched until this day. She switched from like regular like white rice to like jasmine rice, So I think it was like there was like a different white rice that all Hispanics get. And my mom no doesn't get that anymore. She gets like the jasmine rice. And she eats like quinoa, however you want to put it. My mom never even knew what that was before. And I noticed that when the external started like helping my internal, right? When the changes started happening, not only with me, but also with those around me, it became easier for me to lose the weight and keep it off for many years, and I lost 90 pounds in 8 months, but that was because I had the support of my exterior. It helped me, right? I stopped watching certain things on TV that would just make me hungry. Like, so I just stopped watching TV in general, only watch documentaries. So I can totally see what you're saying, like when you have those internal motivators, yes, a lot of us have them. That's how desire starts in passion. And that's how anything ignites. It starts inside first. And then it becomes a reality. But in order for those things to become a reality, we need to be able to have people in our lives and in our circle that supports us and that can help us get to where we're going to go and not be hindering, if that makes sense. So that's,
Yeah.
the example that hit me because I was there, and it was like, wow, I needed both. I couldn't just have one. It's harder. Not that you can just do it all on your own and be strong and have those internal influences, but it's so much easier and of a flow when you have people that are supporting you in your corner, that see you, that see what you're doing, and they're, not going to come to you with a slice of pizza, but they're going to be like, hey, I have this bowl of salad, fruit or something that's healthier. And that's what happened to me. And I seen that was helpful at that time.
I love that story. The thing I love the most, and I think there's this perception that when you surround yourself with negative things or your external motivators are negative, that it will always pull you down. But I think what you showed is that when you believe in yourself, like when you have that true belief in what your vision is, and what I would even say, when you're aligned with God's purpose for your life, which I personally, I know how much mentors weigh to you, mentors way means to you, and that
Yeah.
nothing will stop you from achieving what you need from mentors way. That type of mentality completely will exonerate, will push away, will, you know, get rid of any negative forces externally, because you know that your mission and vision and the goals you're trying to achieve is much bigger than just you. And I think,
Yeah.
to me, for anyone that's listening, that resonates so much with me, because yeah, there's times where myself, I felt at times I couldn't do something that was a goal that I wanted to achieve because of certain external factors. Because, I didn't have enough money, or because I didn't have enough knowledge. I didn't have enough of this. I didn't have enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those are resources that you can tap into, resources that you can change, but it starts with changing internally about what you believe about yourself. And that was what I heard in what you were saying, Ariana, was that you shifted how you viewed yourself and you aligned that view with your mission and purpose that God called you to do. And that was incredible. So as we think about internal roadblocks and negative thoughts being one of the biggest internal roadblocks, I think the first thing that we have to do, and I won't spend too much time on this because we already talked about this in the last episode, and Ariana did a fantastic job of outlining this, but it's being mindful. And I think if you're not able to recognize when your external factors, your external motivators, even if you have internal things that are going on that are negative, if you're not able to recognize those, they will continue to grow, right? And at some point, they will grow and completely take over everything else that you're trying to do. Any internal motivation you have, it can completely become subdued by this negative thoughts, these negative feelings. And so I think the first step in all of this is to recognize when you start to feel negative thoughts, or be mindful of the negative thoughts as they're coming in, and to make yourself aware. If you're not aware, you can't fix it. So you have to be aware. You have to constantly be thinking about where your mindset is and taking almost like that self-assessment. And this is where I think journaling, like we did this, and that's another thing. I didn't even think about that. That's another thing that came from A&E that I didn't do prior, but when going in A&E, that helped create a habit for me, which was journaling every morning, like getting up and writing out my goals and what things I want to get done and things I want to accomplish. That was something I didn't do consistently before. Like actually, I wouldn't even say I didn't do it at all before. It wasn't until A&E where I started to do that consistently, and started to see the benefits and the impact of being diligent with my time, setting my goals for the day, having that visual and setting my day up. But if you're not aware of where there's negativity creeping in and negativity pulling away from you, then yeah, at some point it will overcome, or it will overshadow any type of internal motivators that you have. And so one of the things, and I found this online, I thought it was really interesting, because I was wondering, I said, okay, well, all right, if I've identified the negative feelings that I have, then what are things that I can do around being more positive? And that's where the journaling came in. That's where I started thinking about the journaling and writing down those negative thoughts, thinking about what are those emotional responses that are coming up when those negative thoughts are happening. What things do I need to do and shift to become more positive? Are those things like truly realistic? And Ariana had kind of talked about this in her last episode when we were talking about like, are those things really true? Like, there's a lot of negative thoughts that come up that aren't true at all. Like, there's nothing that even validates them, but for some reason we think they're true because of, guess what, external motivators.